welcome you to the next episode of Infot Hub Media. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce you to our today's guest, who is a living legend and an inspiration for so many. I'm talking about Dr. Vinay Nangia, who is a seasoned professional and has over 46 years of top level managerial experience in banking, industry, and education. He is a distinguished alumnus of Banaras Hindu University and has held the position of head of the department in IIT Roorkee thrice. He has also previously worked at various senior positions at multinational companies in India and overseas. Professor Nangia is on various academic and administrative bodies like Board of Governors, Academic Council, and Board of Studies of IITs, central and state universities. He has authored the book Masters Peak Management Education in India, published by Bloomsbury India in 2014, and Driven by Information Technology Smart Banking and Introduction in 2016. He has been honored with Glory of India Award 2017, Lifetime Achievement in Business Education Award 2015, Best Citizen Award 2015, Shiksha Ratan Puraskar 2014, and Devang Mehta Business School Award for being Best Professor in General Management 2013. Words are not enough to define his remarkable contributions. So please welcome Dr. Vinay Nangia. Welcome, Professor Nangia, to our Inkpot Hub Media. We are so honored to have you on our show. How are you doing?
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me opportunity to be talking with you. That gave me an opportunity to get back and reflect on my life as it has moved. So thank you very much.
Pleasure is all ours. So I wanted to ask you that you have 46 years of senior and top level managerial experience in banking, industry, and education. So how would you like to sum up your beautiful journey by looking back now?
I have been very lucky. God has been very kind to me. It has been a wonderful journey. And I can look back at it with satisfaction. And I could work in rural areas, semi-urban areas, urban areas. And I was also lucky to have worked in private sector and then public sector and then with the governments. And not only with the governments, with the multilateral agencies. And I was also lucky to have worked in manufacturing sector as well as services sector. And I think what I thought as a young student in university about my future dreams, that included I wanted to be a banker, I wanted to be a marketing executive, I wanted to be a CEO, I wanted to work outside India, I want to live outside India, and then I wanted to do consultancy. Then I wanted to write the word doctor and professor as titles before my name. And then I wanted to write books. And believe me, I was able to do all of this, and which is very different from each other. So the journey that way has been very nice, very good, very comfortable and very rewarding. But interestingly, the most difficult assignments I've faced, and they looked more challenging, were ultimately, when I look back, they were the most satisfying also. They were the most rewarding also.
Yeah. So amazing. So what are your recent activities?
Jika, more recently in 2019, in fact, I was a member of a committee which NSIT, Netaji Subhash Institute of Technology, which became Netaji Subhash University of Technology in 2018. They wanted to start BBA, MBA programs. So they had set up a committee. I was invited as one of the members. In the very first meeting I was attending with them, they offered me the position of Emeritus Professor. And then they asked me to help them set up these programs. So in 2019, I set up BBA, MBA, MBA in Innovation, Entrepreneurship and Venture Development for Netaji Subhash University of Technology. That was in 2019. And in 2020, I am helping BML Munjal University here as an adjunct faculty to set up their incubation center.
Wow.
So these are two institutional activities. And of course, I've been helping startups for last few years in terms of grooming them and mentoring them. And those activities are always running in the parallel. So this is what is more recently engaging me.
I know it's very different to ask, but what is that job which you like the most and enjoy the most?
I think I can narrate 2, 3 jobs which I like the most. To start with, the first one was as investment banker.
Okay.
And as investment banker, this gave me an opportunity to be moving about with people like Lieutenant General Jagjit Singh Arora and Brijal and Arun Bharatram. And because I used to conduct brokers conference and press conference across India for the IPOs which I was handling. And this was in the mid 80s. And at that time, getting that kind of exposure at a young age was a wonderful experience. And I also developed money market in Delhi, because all PSUs were in Delhi and the money market was in Bombay. So I used to pick up the money from public sector undertakings in Delhi and transfer it to money market in Bombay. So that was another aspect. Then I developed Jaipur as the first time I developed Jaipur as an IPO market. That was in 1985, 1986. So investment banking was a wonderful experience. And the second most interesting was setting up a textile mill in Nigeria, Lagos. And this was done in a record period of 14 months. And this started from concept to commercial production. And this was a composite textile mill. And setting it up in a foreign land and not being an engineer, it was quite a challenge. So we bought the machinery from Europe, and I recruited people from India and Africa and all over the world. And this 14 months, it became, running textile mill. So this was the second interesting experience. And the third was setting up business management Department of Management Studies at IIT Roorkee in 1998. But more than that, I think what gave me happiness was interacting with the students and grooming them and developing their soft skills by taking them to villages of Uttarakhand. So that was the third more interesting assignment I had. So I mean, very briefly, I have said 3. In fact, there have been many more.
I'm sure. So, Professor Nangia, you have already mentioned that you went to IIT Roorkee, and then there you have been a head of Department of Management Studies for more than 9 years, for 3 terms. So, how do you reflect back on your academic career?
Shikha, it was very interesting and very funny also, because it all happened like a joke. And I'm one of the oldest persons on the internet in this country. So I'm on the internet since
No, not at all.
1995. And you'll be surprised to know. Do you know what is the first email ID given in this country? It's very interesting.
No, I really don't know.
It was AAA, capital A, capital A, capital A.
Okay.
@GIAS. GIAS stood for Gateway Internet Access Services.
All right.
BM for Bombay. 01 for first server. So it was AAA@GIASBM 01.bsnl.net.in. So Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited was a PSU at that time. Now later on Tata bought it.
Okay.
So my friend got the second email ID. He was country head for Citibank. He got it AAB@GIASBM01.bsnl.net.in. I got it in Delhi. When I got it by name, because Delhi was later than Bombay. And it was, instead of BM, it was DL01. So anyways, so I was, on internet. So I just casually applied because I saw email ID of Roorkee University when it gave the ad. So when I applied, I got a phone call from a senior professor from Roorkee, and he said, "Are you serious?" So I used to be a very, very vibrant and very aggressive CEO in my days. So I said, "Do you think I'm joking with you?" That's the way I was talking to him. So he said, "I'm sending you a proper form. Please fill it up and send it to us. He sent the form to me by courier, and when I was filling it up, I had hardly any academic credentials because I had all industry credentials. So I filled it up and I forgot about it. Then when I got the interview call, I was traveling to Dehradun helping some friends set up his industry. And we were passing through the Roorkee Chauraha in Roorkee. And I told this person, I said, I've got interview call here. And this friend of mine asked, are you going to give the interview? I said, no way, I don't have credentials to be an academician. So she said, no, you must see the campus, it's beautiful. You must go there and see the campus. So I was not interested anyway. So this was a Saturday and Monday was the interview. So she gave her car and driver. And I came to attend the interview. And even after the interview, I was not serious. I was not interested. So when I got selected, I had no reaction, no nothing. So twice I was invited by University of Roorkee with family as a guest of the university to accept the offer of professorship. So that's how I became professor. And I didn't know the value of being the first employee, first professor, and being asked to set up the management department because I had no understanding of the academic system. Anyway, having finally decided, and this was done at the behest of one of my uncles who used to be working very closely with Professor V.K.R.V. Rao when he was Vice Chancellor of Delhi University. So this gentleman almost insisted I should join, give it a try. So that's how I joined. So when I joined there, I realized that there's no faculty, no lab, no library, no approvals, no course material, no coursework, no nothing. Oh. So I joined on 15th June 1998 and we had to operate from a temporary shed from somewhere and we had to get AICTE approval, we had to recruit, we had to do complete admissions, we had to do faculty recruitment. We had to do almost everything. So all my mind, attention, everything was in firefighting. This happened for about 2-3 years. And research was nowhere in the picture because, you are basically trying to start a MBA program. And that too an engineering institution where there is no understanding of... So very interestingly, in all engineering institutions, they use the term LTP, L for lecture, T for tutorial, P for practical. Okay. So LTP is standard technology. Now coming from management background, LTP meant nothing for me. And I used to feel very funny sitting in these meetings. What are these guys talking all the time? LTP and all. It's a different story that over a period of time, I removed T and P from my department. But this was one of the challenges. So I think first few years, the advantage of coming from industry was that I had a very high level of acceptability because I was already CEO of few companies. And I came from a very senior position and background. So I had a very high level of acceptability, but the disadvantage was I never knew how academic systems work, how teachers think. What is the culture of an academic institution? And I think that was a major challenge. And it has taken me a long time to understand it. I mean, it's one of the most difficult things which I faced in my life. Because, change of culture from one kind of organization to another is quite a challenge. But I must say, I got all kinds of support from my senior colleagues and my institution and everybody. So we could sail through very easily. And I think after 10 years of our department, we concentrated very heavily on research. Now, in terms of NIRF ranking, Department of Management Studies is number 12 in all India, which is not a small achievement. And I think last year also we were 11. So we've been on the top for a long time. And the number of scholars at a given point of time in last 10 years has been averaging 75 in the department, where we run only one MBA program in all. So the teachers are getting a lot of time to do research. And teachers are spending a lot of time with scholars. So research has become a priority over a period of time. So we started from zero and we have traveled a long distance.
Amazing. So Professor Nangia, you inspire your students a lot. But what is the best thing you have done for your students?
I think what I gave to my students, most of the people don't do that. And that is I've given all my time to my students.
Wow.
So even when I was head of the department, my doors were always open with a clear instruction. Even if I am sitting with a guest or even with the director of IIT Roorkee, students can walk in. Nobody can ever stop any student to meet me anywhere, whether it is my office or it is my residence. And even in my residence, students used to hang around till 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock night. And, you know, they were always, if I don't have 5, 10 students hanging around my neck, I never felt satisfied and happy. So I gave all my time to my students. And I think the way I've been firing my student and shouting on them, no other teacher would have done to them, but they still love me so much and respect me so much because they get some value add from me. And the value add has always been in terms of their career, their future, their thinking. And I have gone beyond the professional development, even on their personal issues.
So, Professor Nage, if you can share, who are your best PhD scholars and why?
I have had 7 research scholars working directly with me.
Mm-hmm.
And of these 7 scholars, one I remember very distinctly. In fact, she is a co-author with my book also, and that is Dr. Ritika Mahajan. Okay. And Dr. Ritika has been, she took a different path, and there's a lot of background to it. In fact, her teacher, who is Dr. Sanjeev Arora, he pushed me into taking him as a research scholar. And he took 2 years to convince me to take him as a research scholar. He was already assistant professor in Guru Nanak Dev University at Jalandhar.
Okay.
And he got admission in IIT Delhi also. Despite that, he said, no, I want to do it with you only. So he was my first scholar. Okay. So Ritika was his student in MBA. So Sanjeev said, sir, kindly take this girl, is very bright. So when we were taking her interview, we really found her not only the bright, she topped all parameters.
Wow.
And the challenge was that I wanted to work in the area of management education. So I asked the girl, would you be interested in doing management education? She said, yes. And then one of my colleagues who's professor now in IIT Roorkee, Dr. Vinay Sharma, he works on qualitative methods of research. So I asked Vinay, would you like to be a co-supervisor? He says, yes, sir. So both of us started guiding Ritika. But the challenge was all other scholars in the department were working on quantitative. So all used to bug her, what is this qualitative? What is this qualitative? And they would, they would make her feel awkward. And I think the first 1 or 1.5 years, she was getting disoriented, not knowing, which way is she going and what is happening and all that. But after that, once she understood and once she got on board and then she started working, there was no looking back. And the sincerity, commitment, punctuality, and the timetable she made and the way she proceeded, I think I've been very proud of her. And then she joined Delhi University as assistant professor. It's very recently she has moved to MNIT Jaipur as assistant.
Oh,
so she's been my best scholar. But over a period of about 10 years, more than 10 years, I've been heading research committee. I think more than 12, 13 years as a chairman of the committee, where I used to see selection of research scholars, their PhD viva and all those activities. And the person who impressed most me is Dr. Satish Kumar. And Dr. Satish was interviewed PhD defense. His defense was in front of Professor I.M. Pandey, famous Professor I.M. Pandey of IIM Ahmedabad. And that is the best defense I have ever seen in my lifetime. And Satish was wonderful in terms of his temperament and the way he helped all of the scholars. He had the leadership qualities and knowledge, publications. Put it on any parameter, he was damn good. And as the luck would have it, he went to Malaysia for his job. And I was at least in 3 selection committees where he was giving interview.
Wow.
And in almost every interview, he was the topper. And then he joined MNIT. He has been head of the department there. And he is currently associate professor with MNIT Jaipur. So these two persons come distinctly in my mind. Other scholars also, I think I have had almost all very good scholars.
Wow. So, Professor Nagya, based on your experience as a PhD supervisor, what are those virtues a good supervisor should have?
Yeah, this is very important because I find many of the scholars going haywire because their choice of supervisor itself is not correct. Okay. Now, this is not the answer to your question. I'll come back to your question. But the first thing is to choose the right guide, right institute, right guide, right topic. These are three very, very basic things where a scholar does not apply his or her mind at all. So ideally, the guide should be, so I'm speaking from the perspective of the scholar. Ideally, the guide should be in the age group of 40 to 60. In fact, 50 years is the ideal age, plus minus 5 years. The reason is the person has almost always become professor. So he has a standing, he has a networking, he has the right knowledge, he has the right context. And in academic words, he is going to travel another 15, 20 years with you. So he takes you along. And if you take a guide who is 32 years old, you see, the guide himself is struggling within the department or the institution.
True.
So there are a lot of political challenges in doing PhD in India. And in those challenges, a person who is 32 years old cannot help you, but a person who is 50 years old is very helpful.
Yeah.
So, to answer your question, the PhD supervisor must be kind, considerate, and strict. Now, these are sometimes maybe looking contradictory, but if the guide is not kind, the chances are the scholar will go into depression. Okay. And when I say considerate means the guide must give time. And many of the guides don't give time. So one is kind, second is considerate, and third is strict. Because if you don't make your scholar follow the time schedules, you're wasting his time, you're wasting your time. So I repeat, a good PhD guide must be kind, considerate, and strict, in addition to be knowledgeable and influential. Now, if he is not knowledgeable and if he is not influential, first three qualities will be of no consequence. So that's what I wanted to say about the guide.
Okay. And what are your overall observations on research in academics in India, especially?
Well, I have been seeing for a very long time, almost 5 decades, I would say. And very interestingly, let me give you an example. The people who set up FMS Delhi University, I would call three persons. In fact, originally Professor A. Dasgupta, who was heading Delhi School of Economics and MBA started from there. He is the person who is credited with setting up FMS Delhi University. But Professor Abad Ahmed and Professor Neel Megam. Professor Neel Megam is the person who wrote the project report for IIM Indore. Okay. So Professor Abad Ahmed and Professor Neel Megam were the two top guys who helped shape up FMS Delhi University. So Professor Abad Ahmed was telling me that he was the first PhD scholar in Commerce Department of Aligarh Muslim University. In Aligarh Muslim University, he was the first scholar in commerce. And that must be in 60s, I would think early or mid 1960s. So Professor Abad Ahmed had his research on sugarcane and sugar mills. So in Western UP, any and everybody I come across who have done PhD from 65 to about 85, 85, they have all done work on sugarcane and sugar mills and working capital of sugar mills and those kind of topics, because Western UP was the place of sugarcane growing. And after that, all the scholars, or rather most of the scholars I came across, from mid-80s to almost 2000, they were all doing working capital in BHEL. Very funny. So, because BHEL Haridwar was convenient for them. Yes. So, anybody from Ghaziabad to Dehradun doing PhD was doing BHEL Haridwar, working capital management. Very interesting. And then last, I think 15, 20 years, I've been going to Punjab for PhD Viva as well as for faculty selection. And I think 90% of the students I have come across, 90% of the doctors and scholars I have come across, they have all done a PhD in an area which has three components. One is 3 districts of Punjab, another is automotive industry, another is MSME. Okay, so when I asked them the question in the interview, who is the top guy, who is the highest authority, government official in the country in MSME, they cannot answer that. Now coming back to your question, my observation is, number one, people, both guide as well as scholar, are giving all their time and attention to the methodology of doing research, and they are missing on the domain knowledge. So the guy who is working on MSME doesn't even know who's the highest authority in the district or who's the highest authority in the country. And they have completed their PhD in 3 or 4 or 5 years. So domain knowledge is one area where they are very poor, and generally across the board. Let me also tell you that. That's one observation. Second observation is their PhD topic and the research most often is not relevant to the industry, to the society, and even to the academic world in terms of generating new theories or new philosophies. So they are, the game goes on like this, that you identify some topic and then you create some hypothesis and then prove or disprove it, and somehow you get a degree, you get a doctorate of philosophy. But you have not added any value anywhere, either to the industry or to the society or to the academic community. This is a general observation, but I must say at the same time that the culture of research is now coming into the country and things have started slowly improving. And the trouble even today is that there are not enough good guides to be the supervisors of the PhD work. So that is where the trouble is. But nevertheless, I would still say that India has moved forward in terms of quality of research over a period of time. So the progress has been in the last 15 years or so, and it is going to take a lot of time to imbibe the culture of research in this country.
So, Professor Namgia, you are a role model for so many people. I want to know, who is your role model?
Well, I will name 2 persons. I don't know whether to call them role model or not. One is my mother, and another is Mahatma Gandhi. These 2 personalities have influenced me a lot. My mother taught me 4 words: do good, be good. And that is the crux of philosophy of all religions. Nothing less, nothing more. Do good, be good. That's the beginning and end of everything. And what I've learned from her, she's a very educated lady, by the way. She's a gold medalist in MA history of her time, and all her education is post-marriage.
Wow.
So, yeah, and she is 95 and she still guides me even today. Amazing. So she is 95 plus. In fact, she was 95 on 21st October this year.
That's good.
So what I learned from her is that you have to be relevant and useful to the environment in which you are. You have to be considerate to the people around you, and you have to be helping others. And the use of common sense is something which I find in her, which is amazing. And when I say you have to be relevant and you have to be present in the context, I can discuss history, geography, global history, global geography, including Trump and Indian politics with her even as on today. So that is being relevant. So otherwise, if you're not relevant, nobody talks with you and you lose value. Absolutely. So you have to add value to others. So this is one major lesson which I learned from her. There's so much to talk about, but I think I'll not go beyond that. And the second is Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is beyond a word like role model. He is much more than that. Mahatma Gandhi I would not have understood very properly but the topic of my PhD research was itself Mahatma Gandhi and governance.
Wow.
And so I had to make a very deep study into Mahatma Gandhi's virtues and the values and the basic qualities. And that opened my eyes. And I believe it is very difficult to have physically a human being like him on the face of this earth, which is written by many people also, what I'm saying. And I'm very sure if the mankind does justice to him, he should be projected as God in due course of time. But in any case, he is like God to me. So role model is too small a word for him. He is like a God to him, God to me. So these are the two persons I would like to name.
Wow. Professor Nangya, I have so many questions, but the final last question, do you have any advice for PhD scholars who are aspiring to do something in research space?
Yes, and my advice is on two levels. One level is choosing the right institution, right guide, and right topic, which is the starting point of it. And I find more than 90% of the PhD scholars going wrong on that, because they have some concept in their head and they just want to go around and sell that concept left, right, and center to anybody, whoever would buy it, which is not the right approach for doing PhD. And you see, if you have chosen the right guide, right institution, and right topic, then 50%, much more than 50% of your task is over. That is one. And second, my very serious concern and advice is to do research which is relevant. And 99% of research in this country, I'm talking about academic research, I'm not talking about sponsored research, or I'm not talking about research by institutions like Indian Institute of Science or ISRO or BARC. I'm not talking about that kind of research, or DRDO. But I'm talking about research in the universities. 99% of it, I do not find it relevant. That is why the good BTechs of IITs never do research in India. You see, any good BTech from IIT do not want to stay back in India to do research is precisely for these reasons. And our environment for research is still taking time to build up. So that kind of culture and environment is going to take time. So my advice is on two levels. One is identifying the right institution, guide, and topic. And the second is to do anything which is relevant to the society and the industry. So this is what is my advice.
Thank you so much. It was amazing to hear you. I think I can keep on listening to you on and on, but time is short. So thanks a lot. Thank you for coming on our show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Press the bell icon on the YouTube app and never miss another update.